Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ninja Legends podcast. Today, we're gonna discuss the first season of The Mandalorian. This time, we decided to do a podcast not related to Ninjago. It's a new concept, and we hope you will like it. So, first, I will introduce myself. Hello, I'm Rida. I do Ninjago videos on my YouTube channel. So, if you are interested, you can check the link in the description.
Hi, it's Brix on Brix here, and this is my second podcast, and I also have a YouTube channel, but it is a lot smaller than my co-host here, so hopefully you guys can check it out in the description.
Hi everyone, I'm Kaz60 and I'm just a new recruit to the Ninja Legends team. My YouTube channel, Kaz60 Bricks, is based around the topic of Lego, so I make content such as set reviews, top 10s, haul videos, news videos, and much more. My core themes would be Star Wars and Ninjago, and a lot of my best videos are sort of like miscellaneous. They don't fall into any categories, such as playing Ninjago on piano or every single dare scene in Ninjago. Right now I'm making a series where I interview other YouTubers from around the community. So yeah, if you guys are interested in that, you should definitely check it out, and my link is in the description.
All right, cool. So with the first episode, Bricks
Yeah,
on Brick will start with the
yeah,
summary.
I'll go ahead. So, the first episode is entitled The Mandalorian, and obviously, if you weren't aware of this, obviously some people when the first show was first coming out considered like Baby Yoda thought Baby Yoda was actually Yoda, but obviously he's not. That was more revealed in season 2 than season 1. But yeah, so this takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi and the Fall of the Empire. But getting into this, at the beginning of the episode, we have the Mandalorian goes into some sort of cantina, and he's kind of fighting some bounty hunters because he's trying to get his bounty. Sorry about the storm in the background, but he's trying to get his bounty, and eventually he does. And it's this like blue fish guy whose name is revealed in the second season. He takes him to the Razor Crest. The guy has to use the refresher, which is the equivalent of a restroom in Star Wars. And then the Mandalorian puts him into carbonite and takes him to Grief Karga on another planet where Grief Karga gives him another bounty puck, which has what will later be revealed to be the child on it. So he goes ahead and goes there. He goes to the planet and he meets this Ugnaught called Quill, and he teaches him how to ride a blurg. So the Mandalorian eventually goes out there and tries to, battle the people who are guarding the child, and eventually a IG unit. I don't remember his name. Anyone remember like the IG unit's actual full-on name? I just don't remember it.
Yeah,
I'm
I,
pretty
I
sure
don't
it's
remember it either.
IG-11.
Okay,
Oh,
so
maybe.
IG-11 teams up with the Mandalorian and they kind of defeat all the people guarding the child. They go inside there, and then the IG unit during the battle, actually, the IG unit kept saying he was going to self-destruct. It was kind of funny. And then once they get inside there, the IG unit tries to kill the child, but the Mandalorian destroys the IG unit, and he realizes, obviously, I keep considering it the child, but it's not revealed that it's the child until the very end of the episode when he takes down the blanket, and it's revealed to be Baby Yoda or the child. So yeah, that's pretty much the entire episode.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. So one thing I liked about this episode, one really good thing is that it shows like how Mando is an actual real bounty hunter, and it shows one of his missions when he have to go and take Yoda. And this mission is really interesting, and like it's really enjoyable to watch, and we see like the real Mando on when he's doing like his job of a bounty hunter.
Yeah, that definitely was very interesting. There is one thing about the episode I forgot to mention, though. I forgot to mention the scene where he goes and meets the client and gets his job, more or less. So that was a scene that kind of happened, which sets up something that happens in episode 3. So
Oh yeah.
I just figured I should have mentioned that.
Yeah, so I really liked the episode, but I just wasn't that invested in it at first, just because it was like new characters and stuff. So it was kind of a bit of a boring episode for me. But a few things I did like. I really like Grogu at the end, or the child as he was referred to then. We got IG-11, Queel, and the Meteor, which will be like important later on in the series. Overall, there was no major flaws for me. I really liked the scene with IG-11. I thought that dynamic was pretty good when he was like trying to shoot the child, and it was pretty cool as well to see the Mandalorians and all that.
Yeah, that was definitely really interesting. I agree that this show, at first, when you first watch a show, obviously you don't understand all the characters, but, I think it introduced all the characters pretty well and set up what was going to happen later in the show's run.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one cool thing is that this first episode was really like random because no one really knew how the Mandalorian will be. And the good thing is that it's not really like the Star Wars movies, but it has this Star Wars universe thing, and it was really cool to see like something that's not really Star Wars, but at the same time it's Star Wars. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah. It has that
Yeah,
Star Wars feel, but
yeah.
it's like new characters and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
it has more of a Western feel.
Yeah, I would definitely say.
Also,
Yeah.
Mando at the end when he kills the IG unit to defend Baby Yoda, it was really like it shows that even if he's a bounty hunter, he also have a human heart, you know. So that also that was also a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. So, is there anything anyone else wants to add? Because I'd say we're about ready to start rating this first episode.
I don't have anything more to say, so yeah, let's go on to the rating, I think.
No, before that, there's this guy that name I think it's Quill, right? And
Oh,
he
yeah.
helps Mando to get there. This person reminds me a little bit of like not really Yoda, but it's like a guide to for Mando, and I and this character is important in the future episodes. I also like this character a lot, and everything around the character.
Yeah, he is a pretty cool character for sure.
Yeah, he was definitely one of my favorites in the show.
Okay, so are we now ready for the ratings?
Yeah, I think we can do the ratings. So for me, this episode was really well executed. Um, like it's really start the Mandalorian story in a good way. It shows the Star Wars universe at the same time the new concept, and I really enjoyed this one. And it was a good start for the Mandalorian. I think I'll give it a 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I also really did enjoy the episode, but there were some boring sections in it, and I mean it did have to introduce some characters, so I would definitely agree, it wasn't the best episode, but I will probably give it an 8.5 out of 10 because I really did enjoy it.
For myself, I did find some bits of the episode a little bit boring, and there was no major flaws with it, but it just wasn't that entertaining to me. So I give it like a fair 7.5 out of 10, I think.
So I
Okay,
think we can move
so
on to the second episode.
so just real quick, I'll tell you guys our overall rating would be a 23 out of 30. So yeah, that's our overall rating on this episode for this podcast.
Oh, cool. Okay, so you can start with episode 2.
Getting to the second episode, this episode I really don't remember that much, but looking at the synopsis that we have in the chat, I will say that like this episode, some people considered it filler, which I would agree. Not much happens, but basically at the beginning, the Mandalorians like ambushed by some warriors, and they attempt to disintegrate the child, and they reveal they have like a tracking fob. So yeah, and then the Mandalorian returns to his ship, and he kind of finds a team of Jawas who are scavenging for parts, and then he has a battle, and then the Jawas retreat to a sand Sandcrawler and stun the Mandalorian with their ion blast. So then he goes back to his ship and he finds it stripped bare and all of his weaponry is stolen. And so he finds Queel again, who was introduced in the previous episode, and he grudgingly bargains with the Jawas to return his ship parts in return for retrieving an egg from the Mudhorn, which he does. And eventually, like, Yoda uses the Force once they wake up this Mudhorn, and has kind of he uses the Force to lift it to protect the Mandalorian, and then the
Yeah, it was the
Mandalorian goes.
first time we see
Yeah, the
Baby
first time
Yoda
we saw
using it.
Yoda use the Force. So, and then that allows the Mandalorian to kill him, and he returns the egg to the Jawas, and they eat what's inside it, and then the Mandalorian leaves with the child. So that is pretty much the entirety of the episode. Really, I would consider this somewhat like a filler episode because the only thing that was important is that we saw Baby Yoda use the Force, and we saw Queel again, but everything else really doesn't really matter to the plot.
Yeah, I agree there. Um, I like the whole scene when they go to get the egg. It was cool. Like it was a bit. There was action. Like it's enjoyable to watch, but it's a bit slow. Like I get a bit bored. But when I see Baby Yoda using the Force, like it was cool to include that in this scene because it was the first time we see that. And also the whole thing with the Jawas, it also like shows more that it's the same universe as the Star Wars. So that's also good because the Jawas, we see the Jawas in the Star Wars movies. So it was cool to include them in this episode as main antagonists.
Yeah, yeah, that was definitely a good part of the episode, but I mean, like, still, the episode was pretty boring. Like, the first time I watched this episode, I fell asleep and I didn't even remember the plot, really.
Yeah, I actually kind of enjoy this episode. I wouldn't say it's like completely filler. It was definitely not as action packed as the other ones, but like stuff such as Grogu using the Force, and we also got to see like how ruthless Mando was, like killing the Jawas with his gun and everything, and how he defeated the Mudhorn as well. So it definitely didn't have as much as some of the other episodes, but I do think it had a few things that were like important, as well as like the child and the Mandalorian's like relationship as well. And I really liked seeing the Jawas and the Sandcrawler and stuff. Just brought me back to other Star Wars movies. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, in all
Yeah.
these Disney Plus shows, there's always like this one episode that's there that really is mostly about developing the characters. Like in the recent Loki show, we had Lamentus, and then in the Bad Batch, we have like a lot of episodes like that. So, it seems in these Disney Plus shows, you always have that one episode or that one group of episodes that really is just there to develop the characters.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Um, and also, as I said before, Quill is a good character. Like I like seeing him in the episodes, and in this episode, it also develops the character more, and we know more stuff. And yeah, I like the whole relationship between Mandalorian and the child, Baby Yoda. And yeah, I like everything about this thing. But yeah, the whole scene where they tried to capture the egg was a bit slow, was a bit boring at some points. But the overall the episode wasn't bad.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't really bad, but like, I mean, it wasn't anywhere near as good as episode one, in my opinion.
Yeah. So should we rate it?
Yeah, let's go ahead and rate it.
For me, as I said before, this episode was good, but like it has some boring stuff, and it's less good than the first one. I think I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10.
Um, I agree with Rita here, although I would say I would give it a little bit of a lower number. I mean, maybe 5.5. Yeah, 5.5. I mean, I love the Baby Yoda stuff. I love the development of the characters, but everything else was so boring for me. And like I said, the first time I watched this episode, I fell asleep. So because of that, I'm only going to give it a 5.5 out of 10.
I'm gonna give it like a 7 out of 10, so I definitely enjoyed it more than you two, but I didn't think it was that bad, personally.
Okay, so our overall rating is a 19 out of 30.
So that's like on average 6.3 out of 10 for the whole group.
Yeah, about.
Okay, so should we move on to episode 3 now?
Yeah, episode 3.
Yeah.
Goes
Okay,
quick.
so this episode is where the plot really gets going. So basically, at the beginning of the episode, the Mandalorian delivers the child to the client, and so yeah, he plans to he delivers the child to the client, and then he asks about the plans for the child, but he isn't really given an answer. So then he returns to the armorer, which is another thing we forgot to mention about the first episode, is that the armorer was in the first episode, so she's a pretty important character. I mean, she's not really important, but she's like definitely helps develop the Mandalorians. And then she uses the Beskar he was rewarded from the client to give him his new armor, and so yeah, then he goes back and he visits Grief Karga. Grief Karga is kind of like, maybe you should take a break, but Mando's like, nope, I want my next mission. So Grief Karga gives him his next mission, and so then the Mando goes back into the Razor Crest, and he's about to leave, but he thinks for a second, and he's kind of starting to miss the child, and kind of has a bit of like a glimmer of like goodness, even though he's like a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
He kind of starts to understand that like what was going on with the child was wrong. So he goes back, breaks in there. We get an awesome action sequence where he kills some stormtroopers, very ruthless like he was in episode 2. Goes to the get the child, and he kind of the doctor at first thinks he's gonna kill him, but yeah, and then he leaves, but then on his way out with the child, there apparently was a fob for him, and all these bounty hunters are coming after him. So he's kind of has nowhere to go. But suddenly, other Mandalorians that come and help defeat the bounty hunters, and he's able to escape, and he gets back to the Razor Crest. So yeah, that's pretty much the entire episode.
Yeah, for this episode, there's this one thing that really shows that Mando is not really like the other bounty hunters. He's not like Boba Fett from the Star Wars movies. No, he have like a bit of kindness, empathy, and like he's not heartless. He have emotions, and yeah, that was really good to see him go back to where he gave the child and seek to get him back and everything and protect him. And the whole scene was when he's escaping. First of all, it has amazing CGI, like the whole effect and everything is just so great. I mean, the Mandalorian technology is so advanced, so I'm not really surprised. But like I really enjoyed the animation in this scene and the action and the story. It was really cool.
Yeah, this episode was really good. In my opinion, when we get to the ratings, in my opinion, it's the best episode so far. Lots of action, lots of development for the Mandalorian. Just so cool. Really enjoyed the episode.
Yeah, for sure, I would say it's the best out of the three so far. I just have nothing bad to say about the episode. Just when we saw the Mandalorian sort of betraying his orders to go back for the child, that's really when we get to understand what this story is about. Like the relationship between him and Grogu. So that was really great. I love seeing all the stormtroopers fighting. Most of the episode was kind of that fight scene with the stormtroopers. Like that was the whole middle section of the episode, but it was really great. and I love seeing all the Mandalorians like coming flying out. It reminded me of the Clone Wars, and it was really, and yeah, I think it was just overall a great episode.
Yeah, and also the interesting thing, so like we see other Mandalorians in this episode, which is cool, but the real like really shocking thing is that we see the stormtroopers, which are soldiers from the Empire, and Empire means like Darth Vader and all the stuff. So here start the speculation that is there a new empire, because Mandalorian is after the sixth movie. So here we start to speculate, like is there a new empire, or did the empire not die, and stuff like that. And it's just it makes me like think about the whole timeline and stuff, and that was really cool.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
aspect is
it
really
definitely
cool
did
because
that.
yeah.
So should we rate it?
Yeah, we should go ahead and rate it.
Okay, so for this one, as I said, I like this episode so much, and I think it's maybe the second best of this season. So yeah, I give it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, so I also really enjoyed this episode. Everything was really well done. I mean, honestly, since I have no cons, I'm gonna give this episode a 10 out of 10. Really enjoyed
And I'm gonna go ahead and give this an 8.5 out of 10.
it. Okay, so definitely the best episode so far from all of us. And let me see the overall rating. I'll calculate that real quick. So it'd be a 27.5 out of 30.
Which is about 9.1 out of 10
Yeah,
as an average.
yeah, okay.
So yeah, we all really enjoyed this episode.
So let's start with episode 4. Go ahead with the summary.
Okay, getting into this episode, some people also would consider this one filler. I don't really think it is, but I mean, like, because Cara Dune shows back up, but like when this episode first came out, people were definitely calling it like a filler episode. But basically, at the beginning of the episode, we don't start off with the Mandalorian. We start off on this planet called Sorgan, Sorgan, and there's kind of a sparsely populated forested swamp. It's a planet, and then a village of farmers are pillaged by raiders, and so yeah, they're looking. So soon, the Mandalorian lands on Sorgan. He looks for a place to hide from the guild because now they're all after him because of what happened in the previous episode. And he goes to a local restaurant and he meets a mercenary named Cara Dune. She was a former rebel shock trooper who had her position and who left her position and is hiding on this planet. And then so then the Mandalorian goes back to the Razor Crest. He's approached by some villagers who are hoping they can hire him to drive off the raiders. He accepts and he gets some lodging and a place to stay in the isolated village. And he uses their payment to hire Cara Dune for some extra help once he's in the village. And then a widowed mother takes care of them and offers them food. And Cara Dune and the Mandalorian, they set their tracks in the mud outside the village, and they identify the raiders. And they have a powerful, like, Imperial AT-ST. So yeah, that's pretty crazy there. And so then they kind of train everyone on how to battle, and they make a plan to trip the AT-ST and stop the raiders. So they go ahead with the plan. AT-ST shows up after the Mandalorian and Cara send it there, and they trip the AT-ST, and yeah, they pretty much, win the battle. And then eventually the Mandalorian is thinking about leaving the child there, but suddenly another person with a fob finds the planet and tries to kill them, and the Mandalorian luckily kills that person, but he realizes that this wouldn't be a safe place for the child because the fob can find him practically anywhere. So he leaves and says goodbye. Also in this episode, earlier in the episode he does like take off his helmet for a second. We don't see his face, but he takes off his helmet for a second. So yeah, that's pretty much the entire episode.
Yes, so at the beginning you said some people consider it filler. And here's the problem that people misuse the filler word. I don't think there's any episode in this in the Mandalorian that is filler. So that was just a misuse of the word, because the filler word is that an episode that doesn't give anything to the plot or to the characters. And this episode introduced Cara Dune and show strength the relationship between Mando and Grogu. Also, Mando go to the planet where they will spend two more episodes in it, I think. So we can't call it filler, but there's a thing called mixed canon filler. It's just an episode that has filler stuff to fill the time to complete the episode, but it's not a full filler episode. It has some filler scenes, filler but it's not a filler episode.
Yeah, definitely agree with what you said. Like, I don't consider this episode filler, but I remember when this episode was coming out, people were getting upset and considering it filler, but like, this episode is far from filler. In fact, I would even consider it like more plot driven than episode 2 for sure. Like, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
episode 2
exactly.
is the closest thing to filler the series has, but it does develop the characters quite a bit, so it's not filler. And so, like, this episode being considered filler is just so wrong. And I really did enjoy this episode. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. Like when we meet Cara Dune and we meet the village, and also it has this one scene with Grugu drinking with the tea that became a meme. So yeah, I like this episode.
I mean, what do you expect?
Yeah,
Grogu, sorry, Galaxy.
Oh no, you can go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I guess I'll go ahead. Well, anyway, I was saying like, yeah, Baby Yoda or the child or Grogu, whatever you want to call him. There's a lot of memes based on that character because everyone was obsessed with him during the first 2 seasons, especially the first one in particular.
Yeah, because like Baby Yoda's just really cute. But yeah, I was just gonna say that I completely agree with Rita about like filler being a word that's just thrown around, just in everything like Ninjago as well. I feel like nearly every episode that's not like completely action packed and focused on the plot will be called filler. But I found this episode to be kind of a mixed bag for me. There was a lot of good points and a lot of bad points to it. So it was great to see Cara Dune, who of course would become the main character later on in the series. But I did think like the plot was a little bit boring and it actually copied a Clone Wars episode. I guess that's just because Dave Filoni, who also worked on the Clone Wars, was working on the Mandalorian, so he would definitely have like a few ideas that would repeat and stuff. But I just thought the overall plot was a little boring, and I thought the villagers as well were a bit cringe. I'm not sure what they were trying to do with like that woman villager and the kid and like Mandalorian. That was just kind of a bit strange, and I didn't really like that. But this episode was definitely saved for me from one scene where you just see the ATSD walking out of the forest. I just thought that was so cool. It gave me like vibes from like Jurassic Park of like the T-Rex stepping out of the forest. It was just really menacing and really cool. So that scene was just one of the best scenes I think in The Mandalorian. So definitely saved the episode for me.
Actually, I didn't know anyone else caught that reference, but guess you did. Yeah, that when I first watched the episode, it really reminded me of a scene from Jurassic Park 2 because the way like the ATST almost stepped on some villagers, they were trying to run away. It really did remind me of a scene from Jurassic Park: The Lost World.
Yeah, same. And another scene I actually really liked that I forgot about was the one where the person was about to shoot Grogu, because that was like really dynamic because you heard the gunshot and then you thought like Grogu was dead, but it was actually Cara Dune behind the shooter like killing him. So that was pretty cool, and like it was definitely like got your heart rate up because you thought Grogu was about to die.
So yeah,
Yeah, I think
agreed.
we can move to the rating.
Okay, so go ahead and rate it.
Okay, so for this episode, I enjoyed almost everything in it. Especially introducing the Cara Dune character. I like this character. like regardless of the actor is a bad person, but the character is really cool. And yeah, so for this episode, I think I'll give it a 8 out of 10 because it did well to the plot and it was really enjoyable.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Rita here. I will also give it an 8 out of 10. Not the best episode. Definitely episodes 1 and 3, in my opinion, are superior to it, but it was definitely a solid episode and did develop the characters and introduced more of the plot.
So for myself, I think I give it a 6.5 out of 10.
Okay, so overall rating would be a
7,
22.2
yeah,
and a half out of 10.
7.5 out of 10. 7.5 out of 10.
What'd you say?
The overall rating for us is 7.5 out of 10.
Oh yeah, that's our overall rating, but I kind of like going for out of 30 since there's 3 of us, which is 22.5, but
Yeah, I get.
yeah. But
Okay, so
Okay, let's
let's
move
move
on
on
to
to episode 5.
yeah.
okay, so getting into the second half of the season, the first episode in here is the Gunslinger, and this episode, oh man, I didn't really like this one so much, but let's get into the synopsis. So the Mandalorian defeats a pursuing bounty hunter in a dogfight, but the Razor Crest is damaged once again, and he lands at a repair facility, and he meets um Haley Moto, I think. Yeah, that's the name. Haley Moto or whatever in Maz Eisley on Tatooine, and he seeks for some repairs, and he is here for the repairs, and then he goes to a cantina and meets Toro Calican. He's a young bounty hunter looking to join the Bounty Hunters Guild by capturing Fennec Shand, a well-trained mercenary. And so they, despite their misgivings, the Mandalorian agrees to help, and they go ahead and try to search for Fennec Shand. And then, Peli has come across the child and begins to take care of him. So this is kind of a funny scene. Then we get to the Mandalorian and Calican travel into the Dune Sea on their speeder bikes looking for Shand. Eventually, they come across some Tusken Raiders. The Mandalorian barters with them for safe passage, and they eventually come across, and eventually they spot Fennec Shand, and they kind of take what's the word for it? So like basically they kind of switch who's out on the lookout and while the other one sleeps, and eventually Calican gets closer and closer to Fennec Shand, but she kind of makes a deal with him and kind of says that the Mandalorian is worth much more than she is. And at first you don't think he actually listened to her, and eventually he kills her, but then once they get back to where the Razor Crest is, the man Calican puts a gun to the child, and the Mandalorian and him get in a small battle, but the Mandalorian kills Calican and leaves, and yeah, that's pretty much the entirety of the episode.
So, one thing I really liked in this episode is that even the Mandalorian team up with this guy, but he doesn't really trust him until the end. He doesn't really trust him, and it shows also that even if the Mandalorian shows empathy or he have feelings and stuff, but he also have this instinct of the bounty hunter, which means you can't trust anyone. And he did pretty well in this episode, and everything when they go to attack and when they see the lady that is also a popular bounty hunter that we'll see in season 2 later. Really, this episode shows a lot of stuff, but I can see most of it is filler in this one. like not all of it, because it kind of contributes to to the plot, but it's kind of filler in a way, like not all of it, but most of it, because the whole adventure doesn't really add too much to this season one story. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Rita here. This episode was probably the most filler episode. I did say earlier that episode 2 was, but I honestly forgot about this episode until we came across came across it. And yeah, I almost forgot about this episode's existence. But yeah, cuz this episode is so forgettable in my opinion. I mean, like the only memorable scene in my opinion, is the scene at the end where Calican threatens to kill the child, and then the
Yeah.
Mandalorian kills him. That, in my opinion, was the only scene I actually remembered from this episode. So yeah, this episode was pretty boring to me.
Yeah, but like the reason I don't really consider it 100% filler is because like it contributes to the plot in a way, because it develops the Mandalorian character, but it also because at the end we can see Fennec being saved by a random guy, which is Boba Fett, that we see in season 2. And here's the thing that makes it not filler, because in season 2 we'll see Boba Fett, and it will explain how he saved her and everything. So that's why I don't really consider it filler.
Yeah, mine
Uh,
is
uh,
one of the worst episodes. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
no, go ahead.
Um, so like this episode was just really boring to me. I didn't really enjoy like the plot at all. Um, it's yeah, probably one of the most boring episodes. I think the only thing that was like important from it was the last scene, as you said, where Boba Fett was like saving Fennec Shand, and obviously Fennec Shand is like an important character because she appears later on in season 2 and also in the Bad Batch. But things I hated about it was I really hated the character of the mechanic, Pelimoto. I just found her really annoying. I just thought her acting wasn't that great. I don't know, it must just be a personal thing, but she was just kind of annoying to me. And
Yeah,
just the whole yeah,
yeah, I
sorry,
agree that she was definitely a pretty annoying character.
yeah. And the only cool thing I think from the episode was like a dogfight at the start. But that wasn't anything to do with the plot, so but I just found it kind of cool.
Yeah, so overall, that's pretty much. I think we can go ahead and rate the episode.
Yeah, so for this one, as I said, I considered most of it filler, which means it doesn't mean it's a bad episode, but in my opinion, like I really got bored at the middle of it. Like it was boring in a way, because it's just a Mando helping a guy to complete his bounty hunter task, which is kind of boring in a way. So I'll give it a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, honestly, like this episode, I honestly hate this episode. Like the only good scene was the ending. Like I really hate this episode. I'm gonna honestly give it a 0.5 out of 10.
A
I
what?
wouldn't go that far myself, but I'd give it a 5 out of 10, I think. So just halfway.
You give it a
Yeah,
0.5?
heck
Bricks on
yeah. I,
bricks?
I, I
Oh,
honestly hate this episode.
damn, you killed it.
Yeah,
So
that's like a bit far.
it's a 3.5 out of 10 for the group rating.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let's continue with episode 6. Hello? You can start the summary of episode 6.
Sorry. I got here. So this episode really, there's not too much to it, but I'll get into the summary. So at the beginning of the episode, we have the Mandalorian. He contacts his old friend Ran, and apparently Ran has hired a crew of an ex-Imperial sharpshooter, Miggs Mayfield, the Deveronian strongman Berg, the droid pilot Zero, and the knife-wielding Twi'lek woman. Can you guys? I forget how to pronounce her name. Do you guys know?
I cannot remember at all.
Yeah,
Zion?
I don't.
I'm just gonna say Zion. I don't know. Seems like it's kind of an
Yeah,
X I
whatever.
apostrophe A N, so I'm just gonna call her Zion. If
Yeah, I
it's
think that's
wrong,
Zion.
just comment put in the comments like what is the actual right pronunciation of her name. But they are basically trying to rescue her brother Quinn, a prisoner of the New Republic. So they arrive to the prison ship and they battle some security droids, and yeah, some epic action here. This episode, in my opinion, has some of the best action, and this is definitely part of it. And this causes a New Republic soldier to trigger a beacon alerting the New Republic. So then the crew rescues Quinn, but they double cross the Mandalorian and they try to put him in a cell, but he escapes and he isolates and defeats each member and then captures Quinn. And at this point, it's appeared that he killed them, but he didn't. And so then he goes back to exchange Quinn to Rand for money, but then Rand attempts to send a gunship after the Mandalorian to kill him. But the New Republic beacon had been placed on Quinn, leading a trio of X-wing fighters to Rand Station. They blow it up, and then at the end of the episode, we see all of them in a cell, and they're kind of hurt and stuff, but they're not dead. So everyone that the Mandalorian that was in the crew that the Mandalorian put in the cell. So yeah, that's pretty much the entirety of the episode. This episode could also be considered filler, but it's not because it does introduce Mayfield, who is important later in the series, and
Yeah,
also the action in this episode is really well done. So yeah.
yeah. One of the good things in this episode, like when they go to a spatial station, when there's like friends, it's not really friends, but people that knows the Mandalorian, and it gives more like interactions and affiliations to the Mandalorian. And also, as you said, in season 2 we will see those characters, which is also really interesting to have everything connected.
Yeah, definitely. There's a few episodes in the season, like episodes 4, 5, and 6. All of these episodes have some sort of connections to season 2. Because season
Yeah,
1 and season 2 are kind of this overall 16 episode story, or that's how I see it. Because, like, they just really connect. They feel like they could just be one season because the story from season 1 to season 2 really connects. They do have their own stories, but they do connect quite a bit.
So for me, I absolutely hate this episode. I don't know why, but for me, it's like my least favorite episode of the entire Mandalorian series, just season 1 and season 2. So, the things I didn't like about it, I just really couldn't get into the plot. I found it so boring. I nearly fell asleep watching it, and I really don't like the characters of the crew. I feel like if you're gonna
Well,
call any episode filler, this would be it. The only thing that I like about it was the X-wings at the end, because that was like a really nice thing to see, because that was the first time we saw X-wings in the series, and maybe
well, looks
Mayfield.
like me and Cal XD kind of switched minds here.
Yeah. But Mayfield was introduced, and obviously he's important in season 2. But I didn't like him in this episode, but I did like him in season 2, so I don't know how I feel about that. But overall, I just really didn't like this episode.
yeah.
Well, should
Well,
we get into the
for me,
ratings?
um yeah, but I haven't talked yet really a
Oh
lot
yeah,
about it.
sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so like this episode, like as Coach said, it has a lot of filler moments, like a lot of filler scenes, which is basically half of the episode. And but I still consider the other episode in the desert was Fennec as it was the episode that has the most filler in this season. But this episode has filler too. But the difference is that those characters will be important, especially Mayfield will be important in season 2. So that's why I really don't consider it fully filler, but it has a good amount of filler. But I really like I really agree it was boring at some points. especially when they are going to the station. It was really really slow. Like there can be a lot faster, but I think it's just to fill the gap to make the episode 40 minutes. That's why it's slow.
Yeah, I mean, I actually really enjoyed this episode. I mean, like, if anything, this might be one of my favorites of the filler episodes, tied with episode 6. I just really enjoyed this. I don't know why Calixty's hating on this episode. I actually really enjoyed it. So
Yeah, and as I said, I don't think it can be called filler because the word filler is not that, but it has filler stuff.
yeah, I
So
mean, the only episode of this season that I would consider full-blown filler is the previous one, which there is a few things you see in the previous one that may consider it not to be filler, like the ending scene and stuff. So I guess it's not, but like really, majority of that episode is really filler. It has like the most filler scenes. Well,
I
this
feel like
episode I feel like has
yeah,
more
I
scenes that
guess.
actually matter to the plot.
But I feel like episode 6 is more filler than episode 5 because they both have the same like interesting character. But I would say Fennec Shand is more important than Mayfield, so that's why I think episode 6 is just slightly less important. Also, you see Boba Fett in
Well,
episode
look,
5, so that would be.
it's like they are like she's not really more important, but because Boba Fett will take a big place in season 3, and he has his own show. Then I think like that's why you think, but she's just an ally of like she's just the partner of Boba Fett. But also Mayfield is just as important in the season 2 because the whole scene when they go infiltrate the base. It was a really good episode. So I can think she's more important than Mayfield, but like they are equal. I think.
I
Well,
can see
how
where you're
about you?
coming from, but sorry.
Okay, so maybe we should go ahead and rate it.
Okay.
So for me, like as I said, it has boring moments, but it wasn't like a very bad episode. I think I'll give it a 6 out of 10.
Actually, I really enjoyed this episode. Lots of good stuff happening in it. I'll actually give it an 8 out of 10.
So I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10.
Guess you're worn as savage as me with not even a full number.
Yeah, 'cause, like that's just a bit far. Like episode 5 was not that bad.
I don't know, man. I hated the episode. So cringe, so horrible. I just hated it.
Okay, I have one more thing to say as well. So like I understand how you think Fennec Shand and Mayfield are kind of equal because they are in like Mandalorian season 2. They have similar roles, but actually Fennec comes into the Bad Batch TV show, and then she has a really big part in that, and she's actually really going to be tied into Boba Fett and Boba Fett's twin and stuff like that. So she's going to be appearing a lot more in the series. And Mayfield, we may never see him again. So that would be why I would think she's a bit
Oh,
more important.
yeah, I didn't watch the Bad Batch. I think that's that was the thing.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Maybe you're right.
yes, but when you talk about like we were talking about like within this show as a whole, they're probably equal. If you talk about like the Bad Batch and stuff, then they're not.
Yeah, I can see that, I guess. If it's Star Wars
Okay.
as a whole, it episode 5 adds a little bit more. But if it's just Mandalorian, then I would say episode 5 and episode 6 are both equally
Oh,
filler.
well, anyway, we do need to. So, what was the group rating? So, Rita gave it.
Yeah, so
Rita.
I give it a 6.
Okay, I gave it an 8, and Cal's gave it a 3. So, that would be 17 out of 30. Which, what would that be out of
And
10?
5.6 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead. Okay, you guys already put it there. So, seems like we hated episode 5 the most. Mostly kudos to me.
So let's continue with episode 7.
Yep. So now we're getting into the two-part finale. So, sorry, I'm trying to scroll up in the chat here to get to it, but here it is. Okay. So this episode, I really enjoyed it, and starting with the beginning, the Mandalorian receives a message from Grief Karga, And then Karga's town apparently has been overrun by Imperial troops led by the client introduced earlier in the season, and he is desperate to recover the child. And Karga proposes that the Mandalorian use the child as bait in order to kill the client and free the town in return for allowing the Mandalorian and the child to live in peace. Karga then secretly plans to kill the Mandalorian and take the child to the client. And the Mandalorian kind of senses the trap and recruits Cara Dune, Queel, who was the Ugnaught introduced later, to assist him. So Queel brings the rebuilt IG-11 reprogrammed to act as a nurse droid instead of a bounty hunter. But the Mandalorian doesn't really feel that way. He just doesn't really trust the droid because it tried to kill the child. And then they arrive to
Yeah.
Navarro, which is the planet that Grief Karga was on. Sorry, I don't think we've said the name of it earlier in the podcast, but yeah, it's called Navarro. And they meet Karga and his associates, but on the route to the town, they're attacked by like large flying reptile creatures. Karga's injured, but the child uses the Force to heal his wound. And so then, in return, Karga shoots his associates, and he decides not to go through with the trap because he's kind of thankful for the child saving his life, pretty much. So then they formulate a new plan, and Karga will pretend that Dune captured the Mandalorian, and all three enter the town to meet the client, while Quill returns the child to the ship, where IG-11 is waiting. So then during the meeting, the client receives a call from Moff Gideon, who of course is the villain in Season 2, and whose stormtroopers and death troopers surround the building and open fire. They kill the client, and but then Gideon arrives and boasts that the child will soon be in his possession, and the Mandalorian doesn't understand how much he means to him. And then eventually Quill dies because two scout troopers shoot him. So yeah, that's pretty much the entire episode. Lots of stuff going on in this one. Lots of stuff setting up the finale. So yeah, I really did enjoy this episode.
Yeah, same. I think the whole story was very well written, and this is like the exact opposite of filler. It has a lot of stuff in 40 minutes. Like it has the most stuff comparing to all the previous episodes. Um, Moff Gideon did a good first appearance at the beginning of the in this episode, and like I enjoyed like the scene the scene when they go with the stormtroopers. This scene was just amazing, and the whole race with Quill when Quill got killed. It was also a good scene, and we see that Quill was ready to sacrifice himself, and a lot of more stuff in this episode. And especially, was it in this episode when we see the face of Mando?
No, that was the
I
next
think it's the
episode.
next one.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
It was the next episode,
Yeah,
right?
face and
But
name
yeah,
reveal
this
was in the
episode was really
finale.
good.
Which episode is like the flashback of the super battle droids and stuff?
That's the next episode. I mean, we also
Okay.
got I forgot to mention, but in some of the previous episodes, we did kind of get glimmers of the flashback. Yeah, so we kind of got like lots of glimmers of the flashback in some of the previous episodes, which kind of sets up what happens in the finale. But yeah, I just figured I should mention that.
So for me, this was probably my favorite episode of season 1. I really, really enjoyed it. So much stuff was going on, and yeah, I have a lot written down here for my thoughts on it. So, firstly, I suppose I really enjoyed Grief Karga. I thought his acting was really good. So the actor Carl Weathers, I thought he did a great performance in this episode. The great charismatic villain of Moff Gideon, one of Star Wars' best villains, was introduced in this episode. I really liked his TIE fighter as well. It looks normal when it's but it folds its wings down. That was pretty cool. I thought that like the whole development with the Mandalorian and the droid, because throughout the series he's always been saying like he doesn't trust droids, and that was really important here for him to trust IG-11
Yeah,
with
exactly.
Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
And then Quill's death at the end was like really sad. That was probably the most saddest moment of season 1. Because you definitely connected to that character a lot, and then when he died, that was pretty sad. The only thing I would say is I feel like one or two bits were a tiny bit slow. for me, but like most of the episode was really fast. So definitely my favorite episode of the season.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
and the thing with the robots that Mando doesn't trust robots. It also comes to the to the fifth episode, I think, where he puts the Razor Crest to like to get repaired, and he say to the person that I don't want droids to repair my vehicle. So it shows that in a short time he was from that guy who doesn't trust droids to the guy that have trust and that start to trust people more, because he's a bounty hunter, so he's not supposed to really trust people. But in this episode it shows that he really start to trust more and more.
Yeah, I think this story is just a lot about trust, like, and the Mandalorian and like tackling that trust. And season one definitely pushes that story a lot. So yeah, it's definitely very
yeah,
cool.
yeah. It really does. I mean, like this episode was so good. Like, so honestly, this episode is some of the best of Star Wars as a whole, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah, so we should rate it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and rate it.
Okay, so as I said, I love this episode so much, and everything in it, it just perfect. Like they did a very good job. So I will give it a 10 out of 10.
Agree with you right there. Also gonna give it a 10 out of 10. Really enjoyed it.
So I probably would give it a 10 out of 10, but like I like to be a bit more realistic. So although this is my favorite episode of season one, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10, just because I
Whoa.
usually save a 10 for like the best of the best.
Whoa, man. So this is Cal's favorite episode, but he doesn't even give it as big of a rating as we do. Kinda crazy. So we're literally one
Yeah.
off. Like seriously, we could have gotten a 30 out of 30, but dang, you had to ruin it, man.
Yeah. It's a 9.6 out of 10.
It's just nearly there.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
let's move on.
the
Final
season
episode.
finale. Man, we're riding right through this. Way quicker than those Ninjago podcast with Storm Brix and Luke the Nindroid rambling on.
Yeah.
They're gonna kill you for this.
Man, Luke's
Oh.
gonna ram on us in the comment section.
All right, so episode 8. Let's get to that.
Yes, I was muted. So here we are. Now getting into the summary of the season finale. Basically, while the Mandalorian, Cara Dune, and Greef Karga are trapped, IG-11 rescues the child, and the Mandalorian finds a vent into the sewers where he hopes to find his hidden stronghold. Moff Gideon gives them until nightfall to surrender, or he will order his troops to fire. Gideon mentions the Mandalorian's real name, Din Djarin, and yeah, this was definitely a good reveal here. And then the Mandalorian recognizes Gideon. Gideon had been an officer of the Empire's secret police force when the Empire took over Mandalore. IG-11 then arrives on a scout trooper's bike with the child, blasting through the stormtroopers, and then the Mandalorian takes down several more, but is almost killed by Gideon. And then as they take cover inside, Gideon orders a trooper with a flamethrower to burn them out. The child uses the force to reflect the flames back and emulate the trooper. The Mandalorian and IG-11 remain behind to treat his injuries, and this is where we get the face reveal of the Mandalorian. So yeah, definitely cool. So then, technically, it's not in violation of the Mandalorian's rule, which is not show it to a living thing, because IG-11 isn't a living thing. He didn't really break his rule until season 2. So then, the Mandalorian, they arrive at the Mandalorian enclave or whatever it says here in the synopsis, and then they find it abandoned except for the armorer, who explains to them that the Imperials found it and when the Mandalorian revealed, when the Mandalorian and the others, when the Mandalorians revealed themselves, upon seeing the child, to save the Mandalorians from the Mudhorn on Arvela 7, the armorer is reminded of the Jedi, and the Mandalorian sees them as like his ancient enemies, and she instructs the Mandalorian to take the child to the Jedi, which of course happens later in season 2, and then
Yeah.
wherever they be, of course, she also carves a Mudhorn signet into the Mandalorian's armor, and the armor remains behind, kind of battle some stormtroopers, and then they kind of go into this lava river where they meet this strange R2 unit with legs or something, really weird, and then eventually they get out of this tunnel, and IG-11 sacrifices himself, and the Mandalorian kind of gets sad that he has to, and we kind of get the Mandalorian's arc come full circle because he reveals that he actually cared about IG-11 after this whole time. And so then the Mandalorian and all the others can start to battle. Gideon and the Mandalorian uses his newfound jetpack and goes up there, plants explosives in Gideon's TIE fighter, and Gideon crashes, and they think that Gideon is dead and they have won, and so the Mandalorian leaves with the child, but little do they know, Gideon is still alive and he has the Darksaber, setting up season 2.
Yes. So this episode, in my opinion, it's one of the best written like things in Star Wars. Like even there's movies that aren't well written like that. This episode was just phenomenal. So when they go to the Mandalorian cave, I don't know what to call it, but like it's a place for the Mandalorians. And when she tell him to go to the Jedi, and here's we start to think that Grogu will become a strong Jedi later, but then they they attack the base of the Mandalorian. So he tried to escape. As you said, there's this R2 unit, and here's when IG-11 sacrificed himself. And the final fight when Mando used a jetpack to put the explosives and like try to kill Gideon. Like that was maybe one of the best things that like one of the best attacks in all of Star Wars. The whole
Yeah,
attack
I
scene
mean,
was just so it was so action like there was so much action. I really like was into it, and I was vibing like when he did it. I was yeah, like it was just so cool. And at the end when we see the dark saber with Gideon, here we see that season 2 will be really adventurous, and there will be so much stuff in it, which is true.
yeah, I mean, I have to say, I don't think the final battle was all that good. I mean, I liked it, but like, I just don't really think it was like all that good. I felt like it was rushed, and I kind of wish there was just a little more combat between the Mandalorian and Moff Gideon. I just feel like it was just really quick. So yeah, but I mean, I also think that the Mandalorian's arc with IG-11 being ended so quickly, like I just feel like that arc's ending was just rushed a bit. Although I do think that the Mandalorian's face reveal and name reveal were done very well. IG-11's sacrifice was definitely heartfelt, but I kind of wish it was a bit more heartfelt. And I also will say, like, I'm just kind of surprised. Like, Moff Gideon's TIE fighter just crashes in the distance. They don't even check to see if he's dead. Like, what the heck? Like, they just assume, like, the Mandalorian should be smarter than that. He should know that Moff Gideon might still be alive. But despite all my issues, I still enjoy the episode. Definitely a good ending to the season, but there were
Yeah,
just a couple issues for me with.
and it gives hype to the next season. Like when it finished, I was hyped to see what will happen in season 2.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, me too. I just have a feeling that like Disney Plus shows don't do finales that well. I feel like they're always a bit underwhelming. And I do think The Mandalorian has some of the best finales compared to like the Marvel shows, but I still think there was better episodes in the season, and I always feel
Yeah,
like
the
the
Marvel
finale
show.
should be the best. But yeah, there's a few issues, but mostly it was a great episode.
Talking about how like the finales of Disney Plus shows are overwhelming, I would definitely say that the best Disney Plus show finale so far
Yeah.
has to be definitely the Mandalorian season 2 one. And then this
Yeah,
one was really well done. And controversial opinion, but the most recent one, the Loki one, I also kind of enjoyed. But like I do get it though. Like Disney Plus shows don't do the finales so well, and I definitely agree. Like this finale here, I had some issues with. But I mean, it was still overall a good episode.
Yeah, I just have a few more thoughts, I guess, like in detail about different like scenes and stuff. So I'll just go through that. So I love like the Scout Trooper humor. The best thing about like Marvel and Star Wars is how they can like incorporate jokes, but it's still like a really serious plot. So I thought that funny. Like a few problems I had was when they were hiding in the building and he was had the wet blaster. I thought dragged on way too much, and I got a little bit bored in that scene. I just kind of wanted them to run up a bit. Seeing Mando's face, of course, is great. Arc, I didn't think it was rushed or anything. I thought it was perfect. His sacrifice and everything. I really felt that, and Din Djarin's like backstory and everything. I thought it was perfect.
That was
Probably the best part of the episode for me.
Yeah.
Then
I mean, there's one thing we haven't talked about. There is a scene at the beginning of the episode that I didn't really talk about when I'm reading the summary. Mandalorian, not Mandalorian. ID-11, kind of saves the child from the Scout Troopers, and the Scout Troopers like talking for like a long time, and there's just they're just talking, for just a while, and it drags a little bit. It is kind of funny, because you kind of hate these Scout Troopers because they're kind of abusing the child, and then eventually both get killed by ID-11. Like, I think it dragged on like at least a minute too long. Because if it was dragged out so much that I felt like there should have been more time in this like 15 minutes given to later parts of the episode that were more important. So yeah, in just my opinion, that dragged on too long. Some of that time could have been given to the more important stuff later in the episode.
Yeah, I definitely agree that they dragged on that scene too much. It was funny, but they spent it much considered really bad thing to plot. And last thing I want to say is at the end really awesome because for anyone who's watched Clones Rebel, it's a really, really big thing. So I thought it was really cool to see it in like live action, and of course it's going to be important to season 2. So yeah, overall I think it was a pretty great finale. It could have been a tiny bit better.
Yeah, and also
Lego just doesn't even want to make like a more accurate version of the Darksaber with the short sword-shaped blade to make it like a regular one in the new summer 2021 set. That's just kind of absurd.
Yeah, because there's actually like a really easy way to do it with pieces that already exist. I don't know why they aren't, but
you can get that katana piece and put it into the lightsaber hilt. That would have been even better.
Yeah, so I want to add something like this is the first live action series for Star Wars, and for a first live action series, they did really well. Like they did very well on this one. Unlike like the Marvel ones, like also Marvel, they usually don't do like series. It's mostly movies. But like the series wasn't really comparable to what we got for the Mandalorian. Mandalorian was really so good. So yeah, I wanted to add that.
Yeah, I definitely agree because like Marvel doesn't know how to do series because WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier really struggled a lot more than this series did, in my opinion. So, but like this series was so good for like the first live action Disney Plus show, really set the standard for season 2 of this show and the Marvel Disney Plus shows. And season 2 definitely is good. We'll talk about that in a future podcast. But I mean, like WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier just couldn't come close to how good this show was. Loki, although I think was pretty good, but I mean, like the other two shows that I talked about, like those ones just don't come close to how good this one was.
Should we do the rating?
Yep, let's go ahead. Yeah, we'll give an overall rating on the season 2.
Yeah. So for this episode, as I enjoyed a lot of it. Like I think the previous episode had more solid story, it was well written more than this one, but this one's still an amazing episode, and I give it a 10 out of 10.
I personally disagree. I mean, there's just lots of things that this episode struggled with, like the timing and stuff, which is the same issues with most of the Marvel and Star Wars Disney Plus series finales, or season finales, I mean. But like this one just struggled in that area, not as much as some of the others, but it still did struggle. And so, I mean, I'm not going to give it a 10 nor a 9. I'll give it an 8.5. It was good, but
Why?
there's quite a few issues.
I'm also gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10.
So, what
So,
would the overall rating be then?
9 over 10.
And
Okay,
I'm gonna
so
say out of 30. Is
so
that
everyone,
fair?
give like your overall ratings on the season.
So for this season, like as I talked before, for me it's the best Disney Plus show, and I loved everything in it, and especially that like they knew how to make a series when they usually make movies, live action movies. So I liked this whole season, and I think I'll give it a rating of 9 out of 10 because season 2 is better.
Yeah, I definitely would agree. But I wouldn't give it a 9 because this season had issues in quite a few episodes. Like the one episode I gave a 0.5 out of 10. I hated, and the finale had its issues. I'll probably give the overall season a. I mean, if I were, I would say 8.25, but not to be too specific, I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10.
Okay, so I do have quite a lot to say about this season as a whole. So firstly, unpopular opinion, but I actually prefer WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Loki over Mandalorian season one, just personally. And for me, Mandalorian season one just didn't stand out that much as like something amazing. I thought it was good. I thought it was well done for what it was. But for like Star Wars as a whole and Disney Plus as a whole, it wasn't that just season one on its own. So for me, like I really enjoyed the story it contained, and I liked seeing aspects from like Rebels and Clone Wars. That was really awesome to see. I'm a big fan of those, but I don't think it added too much yet to the overall Star Wars story. But I really liked the character development. I loved Mandalorian and Grogu, like that sort of dynamic. I love the characters that we're gonna see later on. It did have a bit of filler, it wasn't that important again to the whole Star Wars story. But overall, for me, I think the season was probably about like a 7.5 out of 10 for me.
So
So,
this
what's our
is
overall group rating on the season?
25 out of 30 and 8.3 out of 10.
Okay, so yeah, so we definitely enjoyed this. I mean, honestly, we've given some Ninjago seasons a little higher ratings than this, but it definitely is solid. I mean, not I mean not near as solid as Ninjago, but like it's definitely was a solid season.
Yeah, indeed it was.
Yeah, I don't think it was bad at all. I just don't care about it that much, if you know what I mean. It just doesn't feel like amazing.
I would
Yeah, go ahead.
I would definitely agree. Like it wasn't the most amazing thing. Although I don't agree with Cal's that like it's better than Falcon and the Winter Soldier or WandaVision. WandaVision had great setup, better setup than this show, and but like the finale underdeveloped so bad. And then Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I just couldn't really get into the show. It took so long to get going. So like those shows just aren't as good as this one. Loki, I feel like setup was really well done. Finale could have been a little better, but it was still good. I might say Loki is better than this season. And then the show was also improved very well with season 2, and I can't wait for the Book of Boba Fett in December, along with its
Yeah.
third season coming in the early winter of next year.
Yeah, just overall, I think Disney is handling Star Wars really, really well. If you just look at the slate of like TV shows and films we have coming, it's just amazing. What they're doing with
Yeah.
the Bad Batch, how it ties in with Mandalorian season 2, Book of Boba Fett, like it's just amazing. I love the Star Wars universe, and I love what they're doing with it and going back and fixing things up. They, in my opinion, with the sequels, but I think they're really covering their tracks now and making some good entertainment. So overall, yeah, I really liked the Mandalorian season.
So does anyone have anything to add before we end the podcast?
I would say, not really. Don't really have anything else to add. I mean, yeah, this is definitely better than most of the Ninjago podcasts that I've watched, and I've been in the one other one. Controversial opinion. I know we're gonna get some hate from the other members in the comment
I
section,
agree.
but
I agree, but yeah.
Yeah, this was
yeah,
my
I don't
first
know,
podcast
man.
anyways.
I feel like we should have less people on these podcasts. Make it shorter,
Yeah,
make it
maybe.
more solid.
Yeah, this was really fun to do anyways. I really enjoyed this. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't have anything to say about the Mandalorian.
Yeah, I probably enjoyed this more than the last podcast that recorded. I mean, I did really enjoy being in that one because there were more people on it, like, talking to go on it. More of a fun environment, but like this one was just we were forward, like knew what we were doing more. So I definitely like this type of podcast that's only going to be around an hour is definitely going to be much better than the 3 hours that we spent talking about the Ninjago season.
The Mandalorian season 2 podcast will be the same. So everyone stay tuned so you can watch these podcasts.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
let's
well,
end the podcast. Thanks
bye.
everyone for watching. You can go check out the other podcasts we has on the playlist and other videos we did. And yeah, bye.
Stay
Thanks
tuned
so
for the
much for having me.
future
Bye.
podcasts.